Question time in Parliament yesterday was overshadowed by a walkout by the official opposition. The Democratic Alliance left the House when the President refused to disclose how much had been spent on legal fees to challenge corruption charges. ENCA's Thulasizwe Simelane joins us now from the Union Buildings for more on the President's heated question and answer session. Well, Thulasizwe, it is a day after that question and answer session. The EFF was not present. The DA walked out. Some people would argue that really nothing new transpired in the National Assembly yesterday.
Yeah, many people would say that, Dan. I mean, in terms of the issues that were being raised by the opposition, 6 questions that were being asked, that were asked of the President, plus I think there was an extra question that was added, of course, right at the beginning of the Q&A session. That question had to do with whether or not President Jacob Zuma received a payment of about R1 million a month from a controversial Durban businessman while he was President of the Republic, to which, of course, President Jacob Zuma responded by saying that he absolutely did not receive any such payments. But in terms of the other questions that the opposition were asking, Dan, I suppose if we were to use a sports metaphor, President Jacob Zuma pretty much dribbled the opposition on a number of issues, including, of course, that question that saw the DA walking out. I mean, if you look, I've had the chance to look at the written reply to the question. The question even mentions that what is the amount in rand? So you expect a quantum, the number of rands and cents that have been spent in the issue, in the court cases around the dropping of charges by the NPA. And if you look at the President's response, even the written one, but also the one he gave in Parliament yesterday, there is absolutely no mention of a quantum there. The President simply saying that, he's defended the court cases that have been brought by the opposition, and he's done so within the ambit of what privileges he's allowed as a servant of the state.
One of the questions that came up with the President, one of those 6, was around the whole issue of the Minister of Social Development, Bathabile Dlamini, regarding this whole issue. That's still bubbling. That's still very much with us, and National Treasury currently grappling with it after it took over the matter in Parliament earlier this week. And he kept on defending Bathabile Dlamini, basically saying, in his view, she must implement the Constitutional Court order.
Yeah, absolutely, Dan. And I would say that's also another one, a classic example of the dribbling game that President Jacob Zuma, game plan that President Jacob Zuma was employing yesterday. I mean, if you listened to Mmusi Maimane asking about Bathabile Dlamini, of course, just before that question, President Jacob Zuma had mentioned apartheid's legacy and some of the legacy that we continue to deal with. Mmusi Maimane picks up from there and says what is not a problem of apartheid is Minister Bathabile Dlamini, and goes on to make the statement that Minister Bathabile Dlamini is incompetent, as basically is on the verge of failing the recipients of social grants. And what does the President do when he takes to the podium to answer? He starts by saying to Mmusi Maimane, why are you defending apartheid? You were affected by apartheid. You were oppressed by apartheid. Why are you defending them? And says, Minister Bathabile Dlamini, you are saying Minister Bathabile Dlamini is not a problem of apartheid. What problem is she? Is she not a problem of apartheid? And goes on to then make that statement that says, people are saying I must fire Minister Bathabile Dlamini. How do I fire her when there's a court ruling that she must implement? Therefore, she must stay to implement that court ruling. So, yeah, pretty much that was the President's approach to many of the questions that were being delivered.
Thank you very much. ENCA reporter Thulasizwe Simelane, live to us this morning from outside the Union Buildings.